Chapter 10 Blood and Fire. The mansion sat on the edge of the city like a threat, all sharp angles and dark stone surrounded by walls that were definitely not just decorative. Mara could feel eyes on her the moment they passed through the iron gate's cameras, probably, but also something else, something that made the hiss coil tighter in her chest. "Relax," Iana murmured, her hand still warm in Mara's. "They're just watching." "That's not relaxing." "I know." Sabine led them through gardens that looked like they cost more to maintain than Mara's annual rent. Everything was perfectly manicured, perfectly placed, perfectly controlled. Even the trees seemed to know their place. The path wound through arrangements of stone and water, Zen gardens that probably had names and histories. Wealth, yes, but more than that, power. Old power, the kind that didn't need to announce itself. The mansion itself was worse, or better, depending on how you felt about being intimidated by architecture. High ceilings, dark wood, tapestries that looked ancient and probably were. Everything screamed tradition, legacy, bloodline. Everything said you don't belong here. Mara's hoodie and borrowed sweatpants suddenly felt very, very inadequate. "They're in the dining room," Sabine said, not looking back. His footsteps echoed on marble floors. "Try not to embarrass yourself." "No promises," Mara muttered. Iana squeezed her hand. Warning or comfort, Mara couldn't tell. The dining room was exactly what Mara expected and somehow worse. A table that could seat 20 though only 5 places were set. Crystal chandeliers, more tapestries, windows that overlooked the gardens and probably cost more than her car. Everything was designed to make you feel small, to remind you of your place in the hierarchy. 3 people sat at the table already. The woman at the head was clearly in charge. Late 50s, maybe, though with awakened it was hard to tell. Silver hair pulled back in a severe bun, eyes the same cold grey as winter sky. She wore traditional robes, still expensive, embroidered with dragons that seemed to move in the light. Power radiated from her like heat from a fire, not aggressive, just present, undeniable. The elder, Mara assumed, maybe the asterisk elder. To her right sat a younger woman, maybe Liana's age. Black hair, sharp cheekbones, eyes that tracked Mara's every movement like a predator watching prey. She wore modern clothes, slacks, blouse, but held herself with the same rigid posture as the elder, family resemblance in the jawline. Another sister, maybe. To the elder's left was an older man, lean and weathered, with scars crossing his hands. He didn't look up when they entered, just continued studying the tablet in front of him like they weren't worth his attention. "Iana," the elder's voice was silk over steel. "Please," said, not a request. Iana's hand tightened on Mara's, then released. She moved to the table, taking a seat across from her sister, and Mara followed because what else was she going to do? Run? Ab would go well. Sabine took the remaining seat, completing the circle. Mara noticed, with a sinking feeling, that the only empty chair was directly across from the elder, the hot seat. Of course, she sat, tried not to fidget, failed. "You must be Mara," the elder said, not a question. She knew exactly who Mara was, had probably known before Sabine even went to collect them. "I am Grandmother Tiang, head of the Dragon Clan." She gestured to the woman on her right. "My granddaughter, Kaida, and my son, Master Feng." The man with the tablet looked up briefly, nodded, returned to his screen. "Grandmother." That made Liana what? Great-granddaughter? How old were these people? "It's nice to meet you," Mara said, because manners seemed important and also because she had no idea what else to say. "Is it?" Tiang's expression didn't change. "We shall see." Servants appeared silent, efficient, barely there. They set down plates, poured water and tea, disappeared. The food was beautiful. Some kind of fish, vegetables arranged like art, rice that probably cost more per grain than Mara made in an hour. She had no appetite. "Please," Tiang said. "Eat. We are civilized here." The subtext was clear, unlike you. Mara picked up her chopsticks, managed not to drop them. Small victories. They ate in silence for a minute, too. The only sound was silverware on porcelain in the distant hum of the city beyond the walls. Mara could feel everyone watching her, judging, measuring, finding her wanting. The hiss coiled tighter in her chest. "Not now. Please, not now." "So," Tiang said eventually, setting down her chopsticks with deliberate precision. "You are the girl who stole my great-granddaughter's heart." "I didn't," Mara started. "A year ago, Iana made a choice. A difficult choice. She chose her family, her duty, her legacy." Tiang's eyes were cold grey steel. "And now, it seems, she has chosen differently. I am curious. What makes you worth throwing away centuries of tradition, of power, of everything she could have been?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Mara opened her mouth, closed it. What was she supposed to say to that? That she loved Liana, that Liana loved her, that love should matter more than tradition. All of it felt inadequate, childish, like bringing a kitchen knife to a sword fight. I don't think I'm worth it, Mara said finally. Honest, but Liana does, and that's her choice to make, not yours. The temperature dropped, actually dropped. Mara could see frost forming on the water glasses. Kaida smiled. It wasn't friendly, Bull, Tian said softly, for someone so very ordinary. Grandmother, Liana said, voice tight. Warning. Tian raised a hand. Liana fell silent. The power dynamic was crystal clear. This was Tian's domain, and even Liana had to bow to it. I mean no offense, Tian continued, though her tone suggested otherwise. Simply observation. You a baseline human, recently awakened, snake class shifter common, unremarkable, no clan affiliation, no training lineage. No, I have training, Mara said before she could stop herself. Kaida's smile widened, like she'd been waiting for Mara to interrupt, to make a mistake. Oh, Tian's eyebrow raised a fraction. Forgive me, I was unaware. What school? Which master? Mara felt her face heat. It's not a formal school. Ah, the single syllable dripped with condescension. Self-taught, then. YouTube tutorials, perhaps? TikTok videos? No, Mara's jaw clenched. I train with Master Liu. In the park. The silence that followed was somehow worse than the frost. Master Feng looked up from his tablet for the first time, interest flickering across his face. Sabin's expression was carefully neutral, but something shifted in his posture. Kaida stopped smiling. Tian set down her teacup with a soft click. Master Liu. Yes, Liu Wei, of the Snake Clan. And Mara blinked. I don't know. He's just some old guy in the park. He does Tai Chi, teaches people. Some old guy, Tian repeated. And something shifted in her tone. Not respect exactly. Something more complicated. You train with Liu Wei and you describe him as some old guy in the park. I didn't know if he was. Mara stopped. Is he important? He's Snake Clan, Kaida said. Like that explained everything. Her tone wasn't quite dismissive, but close. The last of them. Actually. Mara's stomach dropped. The last. The Snake Clan was always small, Master Feng said quietly, still watching Mara with that unsettling focus. Never more than a handful, and now he gestured vaguely. Now, there is only Liu Wei, a last master of a dying lineage. The way he said it, clinical, matter-of-fact, made it sound inevitable, like the Snake Clan's extinction was simply the natural order of things. Survival of the fittest. Dragons endured, snakes faded away. The hiss coiled tighter in Mara's chest. And now he teaches you, Tian said, studying Mara with new intensity. How very interesting. I've only been training with him for a few days, Mara said, feeling defensive though she wasn't sure why. Since I awakened. He found me practicing, and he found you, Master Feng repeated. The last master of a dead clan approaches a newly awakened snake shifter in a public park. Coincidence? The UI doesn't do coincidence, Sabine added. Everything is calculated. Everything has purpose. Snakes, Kaida said, almost thoughtfully. Training snakes. Maybe he's finally accepted that his clan ends with him, trying to pass on what little knowledge remains before it's lost entirely. Or maybe, Master Feng said slowly, he sees something else. An opportunity. A successor. The word hung in the air like a blade. Tian's expression remained neutral, but Mara caught something in the tightness around her eyes. Calculation. Assessment. Show me your hands, Tian said. What? Your hands. Show me. Mara held out her hands, confused. Tian leaned forward, studying them with the intensity of someone reading ancient text. She made a small gesture, and Liana reached across, gently turning Mara's hand's palm up. Calluses here. Tian touched Mara's palm, just below the fingers. And here, edge of the hand. These are not from casual practice. These are from striking, from forms done repeatedly, correctly, with intent. She released Mara's hands. He's teaching you properly. Serpent style. Just Tai Chi, Mara said. Public forms, he said. Serpent style begins with what appears to be simple Tai Chi, Master Feng interjected. The external form hides the internal reality. It's the way. Deception. Misdirection. The snake that looks harmless until it strikes. Again, that subtle disdain. That sense of looking down on Snake Clan methods. The hiss grew louder in Mara's chest. Not now. Not here. Why would he teach me? Mara asked, trying to focus past the rising anger. If he's the last of his clan, why waste time on someone like me? That, Tian said, is an excellent question. Liu Wai does nothing without reason. If he has chosen you, he sees something worth his time. She paused. What did he say when you transformed, when you became the serpent? Mara thought back. The park, the Minotaur, the moment of letting go and becoming something else. Master Liu had been there, had watched, and after, when she'd been human again, bleeding and broken, what had he said? He said I was ready, Mara whispered, that I'd done well, that the serpent and I were beginning to understand each other. Tian exchanged a look with Master Feng. Something passed between them, communication without words, the kind that came from decades of shared understanding. He's preparing her, Master Feng said softly, training her for something. For what? Kaido demanded. She's just a common snake shifter, one of thousands. What could Liu possibly see in? She's not common if Liu Wai chose her, Tian interrupted. The man is the last of his line. If he's teaching her, there's purpose. Whether that purpose aligns with our interest. She trailed off meaningfully. She killed a minotaur, Iana said, voice hard. She became a monster and barely survived, Kaido corrected. There's a difference. Tian raised her hand before the argument could escalate. Enough, she said. Then, tomorrow you present us with an interesting dilemma. You are clearly inadequate for my great-granddaughter by any traditional measure. Weak, untrained, common bloodline. She paused. And yet, you carry the attention of Liu Wai, the last master of the Snake clan. That suggests potential. The question is, what kind of potential? Do we risk Liana's future on the chance that you become something worth the investment? She set down her teacup with finality. So, I propose a test. The words hung in the air like a sentence. Mara's pulse quickened. What kind of test? Liana asked, voice tight. A simple one, Tian said, a smile cold. Combat. A standard duel. If you wish to stand beside Liana, you must prove you can stand at all. Grandmother, Liana started. This is not negotiable. Tian's voice cut like ice. She claims to be learning from Liu Wai. Very well. Let us see what the last master of the Snake clan has taught her. She gestured to Sabine. Inform Master Liu that his student will be participating in a standard duel 1 week from today. Dawn, our training grounds. Sabine nodded, already reaching for his phone. Wait, Mara said, her voice sounding small even to her own ears. What's a standard duel? The silence that followed was answer enough. Everyone knew. Everyone except her. Combat until forfeit or incapacitation, Master Feng said quietly, not unkindly. Death is not the goal, but it is not off the table either. You may yield at any time. But he glanced at Liana. If you do, your relationship with Liana will no longer be tolerated by this clan. Mara's throat went dry. And if I win, if you survive, Tian corrected. If you prove yourself capable, we will discuss your place here. No promises, no guarantees, simply the possibility of acceptance. It was a trap. It had to be. They were born to quiver against someone's skill. Someone trained, someone who would tear her apart and prove once and for all that she didn't belong. But what choice did she have? Okay, Mara said. I'll do it. Liana's hand found hers under the table, squeezed so hard it hurt. Excellent. Tian stood, the meal clearly over. 1 week then, Dawn. Master Liu will explain the details. Her smile was all teeth. Do try to prepare adequately. The next 7 days were a blur of pain, exhaustion, and desperate practice. Master Liu met her in the park the morning after the lunch, just as the sun was creeping over the buildings. He said nothing about the test at first, just began his usual routine, moving through his forms with that infuriating calm, like Mara wasn't about to fight for her life in 7 days. Master Liu, she'd finally said, frustration breaking through. They said you'd explain the duel. He'd opened his eyes, studied her. Standard duel. Fight until forfeit or incapacitation. Killing is permitted but not required. That's it. That's all you're going to say. What else is there? He returned to his form. You already know violence. The Minotaur taught you that. That was different. I lost control. I became. She stopped, not wanting to say it out loud. You became what you are. You paused mid-movement. And that is what you must do again. But this time with purpose. With control. I don't know how. Then learn. He gestured to the space beside him. Again, from the beginning. For the first 3 days, Mara wanted to scream. She needed combat training, fighting techniques, how to block, strike, counter. Instead, Liu just kept drilling her on Tai Chi, the same slow movements, the same breathing exercises, the same endless focus on Qi flow and body awareness. This isn't going to help me, she'd snapped on the third day, her side still aching from the mental wound, her body exhausted from sleepless nights spent worrying. Isn't it? Liu had adjusted her stance with a light touch. You think combat is about techniques, about knowing how to punch and kick, but you already carry violence in your bones. The serpent knows how to kill. What you do not know is when, how, with what force. He'd stepped back. The Tai Chi teaches you this, teaches you to read your opponent, to feel their intent, to know the difference between hard and soft, fast and slow, life and death. I need practical skills. You need to understand yourself. Liu interrupted. The serpent and you are not separate. Until you accept this, until you move as one, you will always be fighting yourself. And a fighter who battles herself has already lost. He gestured again. From the beginning. By day 4, something started clicking. The forms were just exercise. They were teaching her body to recognize patterns, to feel the flow of energy, her own and others. When Liu would move near her, she could sense the shift in air pressure, could feel where he would be before he got there. Better, he'd said, you're beginning to listen. Day 5, Liana came to watch. She'd been hovering all week, torn between supporting Mara and arguing with her family. That morning she'd stood at the edge of the clearing, arms wrapped around herself, watching Mara move through the forms. You look different, she'd said afterward. Different how? More fluid, less like you fighting every movement. Liana had stepped closer, touched Mara's face. I'm terrified, you know, that you're going to get hurt. That they're going to, her voice broke. I know. Mara had pulled her close. I'm terrified too. You could still leave. We could run. Oh, somewhere they can't. They'd find us, and I'd always be the girl who wasn't good enough, who you had to protect. Mara had pulled back, met her eyes. I need to do this, for me, not just for us. Liana had kissed her then, desperate and fierce and tasting of salt. Day 6, Liu did something different. He sparred with her, like contact, just flow, but it was the first time he actually engaged her in anything resembling combat. He moved like water every time Mara thought she had him. He wasn't there. Every opening she saw closed before she could exploit it. But she was learning to read his micro-movements. The shift of weight that telegraphed the strike. The subtle change in breathing that meant he was about to move. She wasn't fast enough to counter yet, but she was seeing it. Good, he'd said. And the single word of praise had felt like a victory. Day 7, the morning of the duel, Liu had her run through the forms one last time. Not the public Tai Chi, the serpent style. The movements that made her spine undulate, that made her weight sink low and predatory, that made her arms move in spirals instead of circles. Remember, he'd said when she finished, both of them breathing hard in the cold morning air. The serpent does not think, it feels, it waits, and when it strikes, it commits fully. No hesitation, no doubt. He'd bow, formal and final. It is time. The Dragon Clan's training grounds looked different in the dawn light, more real, more dangerous. It was a circular arena sunk into the earth, maybe 40 feet across, floored with packed dirt that had probably soaked up blood for generations. Stone seating rows and tiers around it, and already the clan was gathering. Tieng sat highest, Master Fing beside her. Kaita and Seibane filled seats below. Other clan members, 20, maybe 30, arranged themselves to watch. This was entertainment to them, a show. Mara stood at the arena's edge, her hands shaking despite her best efforts. She changed into the most practical clothes. She owned athletic leggings, sports bra, a thin long-sleeve shirt she could move in. Her side still ached from the Minotaur. The wound had healed impossibly fast, actually, but the phantom pain remained. Liana stood beside her, holding her hand so tight it hurt. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. I could. No. Mara turned to face her. Whatever happens, don't interfere. Promise me. Liana's eyes were bright with unshed tears. Mara, promise. I promise. The words came out choked. But if I kill you, I'm burning this whole place to the ground. Despite everything, Mara smiled. Deal. Master Liu stood on the opposite side of the arena, separate from the Dragon Clan. He caught her eye, gave the smallest nod. Ready. Ready as she'd ever be. Seibane descended into the arena, his presence drawing everyone's attention. The challenger will now enter. From a doorway Mara hadn't noticed, a boy emerged. A child, maybe 10, 12 at most. He was small, thin, with messy black hair and eyes that seemed far too calm for someone his age. He wore simple training clothes, loose pants, fitted shirt, and moved with the easy confidence of someone who'd never lost a fight. This was insane. They were making her fight a child. This is Jin. Sabine announced. Age 10. Awakened at 7. Bone manipulation class. He paused. Let that sink in. He has fought 5 sanctioned duels. He has won all 5. Jin bowed to the audience, then to Mara. It was precise, respectful, and somehow more terrifying than any threat. Mara bowed back, her mind racing. Bone manipulation. That could mean anything. Weapons, armor, projectiles, and he was 10 years old and undefeated. Standard duel rules. Sabine call out. Fight until forfeit or incapacitation. Killing is permitted but discouraged. Step outside the arena boundary and you forfeit. Are both combatants ready? Jin nodded. Mara's mouth was too dry to speak, so she just nodded too. Begin. Sabine blurred out of the arena impossibly fast, and suddenly Mara was alone with a 10-year-old who'd never lost. For a heartbeat, neither moved. They circled slowly, each taking the other's measure. Jin's expression was calm, focused, professional, like this was just another day of training. Then he moved, faster than Mara expected, closing distance in 2 quick steps. His fist came at her face and she blocked on instinct, forearm meeting forearm. The impact rattled her bones. He was strong, much stronger than a 10-year-old should be. Mara countered with a palm strike aimed at his chest. He sipped it, moved inside her guard, and drove his elbow toward her ribs. She twisted away, felt it graze her side. Too close. They separated, reset. You're faster than you look, Jin said. His voice was young, but his tone was matter-of-fact. Analytical. Thanks. Mara didn't know what else to say. He came at her again. This time she was ready for his speed. She usually used teachings and tried to block force with force. Instead she redirected, turned with his strike, used his momentum to guide him past her. Her hand found his shoulder, pushed, sent him stumbling 2 steps. Not much, but enough. Jin's eyes widened slightly. Surprise, maybe respect. You've trained, he said. A little. Good. He smiled, and it wasn't a child's smile. I was worried this would be boring. Then his hands changed. Bone spikes erupted from his knuckles, 4 on each hand, each maybe 2 inches long, white as ivory and sharp as needles. He rolled his shoulders, testing the weight, and Mara saw more spikes emerge from his forearms. Not weapons he was holding, part of him, growing from his body. Oh shit. Mara breathed. Jin attacked. He was faster now, his movements sharper, more aggressive. Every punch was backed by those bone spikes. Every block meant risking getting impaled. Mara gave ground, dodging, weaving, her breath coming faster. A spike grazed her shoulder, tore through her shirt. Hot blood welled up. Another caught her forearm when she blocked too slowly. Pain lanced through her. She was losing. Already. Focus. Remember the forms. Feel his intent. Jin came in with a combination jab, cross, hook. Mara saw the pattern, ducked the hook, swept her leg at his. He jumped it easily, but she'd known he would. Her real attack was the follow-up, her other leg coming around in a sweep aimed higher, caught him mid-air, not hard but enough to knock him off balance. He landed badly, rolled, came up ready, blood ran down Ma's arm, her shoulder throbbed, and they'd barely started. "You're good," Jin said, and he sounded pleased. Most people panic when they see the spikes. "I'm panicking," Mara assured him, just quietly. He laughed, actually laughed, then he moved again. This time he didn't hold back. He came at her like a whirlwind, strikes from every angle, the bone spikes adding inches to his reach, making every attack deadly. Mara blocked what she could, dodged what she couldn't, and took hits she had no choice about. A spike raked across her ribs, another caught her thigh. Blood soaked into her claws. Pain screamed through her nervous system. "Move," the hiss whispered. "Stop thinking. Move, Mara." Let her body take over. Let the serpent style flow through her. A spine curved in ways that shouldn't be possible, making her smaller, harder to hit. Her arms spiraled, redirecting strikes instead of blocking them. Her footwork became gliding, weight shifting in patterns that felt alien but right. Jin's eyes narrowed. "What style is that?" "Tai Chi," Mara gasped. "Liar." He pressed harder. The spikes on his forearms lengthened, became blades. He was adapting, learning. Every time Mara found the rhythm, he changed. Forced her to adapt too. She was bleeding from a dozen cuts. Her shirt was in tatters. Her body screamed for her to stop, to forfeit, to end this before he killed her. But she couldn't, wouldn't. Jin feinted left, came right. His bone blade slashed toward her throat, another killing blow, but close. Mara leaned back, felt it pass inches from her neck. Used the momentum to spin, brought her heel around toward his head. He ducked it, barely. They separated again, both breathing hard now. "Forfeit," Jin said, not mocking, almost kind. "You fought well. There's no shame in." Mara charged. She didn't think about it, didn't plan, just moved. Her body knew what to do. She came in low under his guard and drove her palm into his solar plexus, all her weight behind it, all her T focused into a single point of impact. Jin flew backward, actually flew, landed hard, roll, came up gasping. The crowd murmured. Tien leaned forward. Jin touched his chest, winced. "That hurt." "Good," Mara panted. He stood slowly, and then he changed. The bone spikes retracted. For a moment Mara thought he was done, thought maybe she'd won. Then she saw his arms thickening, bone plates emerging from his forearms like armor, his hands elongating, fingers stretching as massive claws grew from his fingertips 5-6 inches long, curved and wicked. His chest expanded, ribs visible through his shirt as bone armor played across them. His jaw cracked, restructured, and when he opened his mouth his teeth had sharpened to points. He'd been holding back, the whole time. Holding back. "I'm sorry," Jin said, and he actually sounded like he meant it. "But I can't lose. Not in front of the clan." Mara's blood ran cold. He came at her like a demon, all claws and fury and bone. His strikes were faster now, harder backed by the weight of that armor. Mara blocked and felt her forearm go numb from the impact, dodged and felt claws tear through her shirt, her skin. She was going to die, right here, killed by a 10-year-old in front of everyone she cared about. No, the hiss said, not like this. Not without fighting back, but she was fighting back. She was giving everything she had and it wasn't enough. "Transform," the serpent urged. "Let me help. Let me." No, Mara gasped. She could control this. She could win without. Jin's claw caught her across the chest. Not deep, not lethal, but enough. Enough that blood sprayed. Enough that pain whited out her vision. Enough that she dropped to one knee. He stood over her, breathing hard, claws raised for a finishing strike. "Forfeit," he said again. "Please." Mara looked up at him, at this child who'd been turned into a weapon, who'd killed before, and would kill again because that's what his clan expected. She thought of Liana, of Master Liu, of the life she wanted to have, the person she wanted to be, and she let go, just a little. The transformation rippled through her, not full serpent, not yet, but her skin hardened, black scales spreading across her arms, her shoulders, gleaming like wet obsidian, her nails elongated into claws not bone like Jin's, but something organic, curved and dark as midnight. Her spine shifted, became more flexible, more serpentine, though she stayed on 2 legs. Her eyes changed. She felt it, pupils elongating, becoming slits. The world shifted, colors becoming sharper, heat signatures blooming where living things stood. Jin took a step back. "What?" Mara moved. Faster now, so much faster. The hybrid form gave her speed she'd never had, reflexes that were almost precognitive. She closed the distance before Jin could react, her clawed hand catching his wrist, stopping his strike. They were face to face, monster to monster. Jin's pupils dilated. "Theo." "Finally, my turn," she said, and her voice was loud now, the hiss underneath every word. She struck not with her claws, but with her other hand, palm open the way Liu had taught her, caught Jin in the chest and sent him skidding backward. He recovered fast. Of course he did. Launched himself at her with a roar that should have been impossible from a 10-year-old throat. They met in the center of the arena, claw against claw, strike and counter, block and redirect. Mara's hybrid form gave her the ace she needed, not overwhelming strength, but enough. Speed to match his, toughness to withstand his attacks. But Jin was relentless. Every time she thought she had him, he adapted, changed tactics, used his bone manipulation in new ways, like shooting from his elbows when she came in close, armor shifting to cover weak points she tried to exploit. A stalemate. They were evenly matched, and Mara was bleeding, still bleeding. Too much. The hybrid form was burning through her energy faster than she'd expected. Her vision blurred at the edges. Her movements were getting slower. Jin saw it, pressed his advantage, drove her back toward the arena's edge. If she stepped out, she forfeited, lost, proved she wasn't good enough. No, not happening. But what choice did she have? She was out of options, out of strength, out of. The hiss roared. Enough. Fully. Now, Jin came at her with both claws raised, going for a double strike that would end this. Mara transformed, not hybrid, full, complete. Her body exploded outward, lengthening, thickening. Her legs fused, became tile. Her torso stretched, ribs multiplying. Scales erupted across every inch of her, black as midnight, gleaming like oil-slicked steel. Her face elongated, jaw unhinging, becoming something reptilian and terrifying. She was huge, 20 feet long, maybe more thick as a telephone pole at her widest. A massive black serpent with a vaguely human torso, arms ending in claws, face that was somewhere between woman and viper. Jin's eyes went wide. He tried to stop. Too late. Mara's tail whipped around, caught him around the waist, not crushing, just holding. He struggled, his bone claws slashing at her scales. They skidded off, unable to penetrate. She could feel him trying to drive spikes through, trying to pierce her hide. Nothing worked. She brought him up to eye level, looked at him with her serpent eyes, opened her mouth, let him see the fangs. Forfeit, she hissed. The word was almost incomprehensible, distorted by her inhuman mouth. Jin stared at her, at the fangs, at the creature she'd become. Her scales were slick with moisture, just a few drops, barely noticeable like sweat after intense exertion, but with a faint oily sheen that caught the light on. She didn't feel it, didn't know it was there. But in the audience, Master Li's eyes narrowed slightly. Tien's expression shifted not much, but enough. They saw it, understood what it meant. Poison, the beginnings of venom production. Barely there, but present. Jin's struggling slow. He looked at her, really looked, and saw something in those serpent eyes that made him understand. This wasn't about strength anymore. This was about what she could become, what she was becoming. Forfeit, he whispered. Mara held him a moment longer, making absolutely sure. Then she released him, set him down carefully, her massive coils flowing like water. He stumbled back, bone claws retracting, armor fading. Just the 10-year-old boy again, reading hard, looking at her with something that might have been awe, or fear, or both. The arena was absolutely silent. Mara turned slowly, deliberately to face Tian. Even in serpent form, even transformed into something monstrous, she held the grandmother's gaze, unblinking, unflinching. Asterisk, is this enough? Asterisk, she wanted to ask. Asterisk, have I proven myself? Asterisk, but she couldn't speak. Not like this. Could barely think around the serpent's instincts screaming at her, predator thoughts, hunting thoughts, the urge to strike or flee or defend. Control, she told herself. Liu's teachings. Remember, feel the chi. Guide it. Return to yourself. Slowly, painfully, she pulled the transformation back. It was harder this time. The serpent didn't want to let go. It had tasted victory, it felt powerful, and it wanted to stay. But Mara was stronger, or might be just more stubborn. She let her body shrink, let the scales recede, disappearing into her skin like they'd never been. Let her legs reform, bones cracking and reshaping. Let her jaw reset, fangs retracting. It took forever, or maybe just seconds. Time was strange when you were fighting yourself. Finally, she stood human again, naked from the waist up. Her shirt had shredded completely. During the final transformation, covered in blood, hers and Jin's, covered in sweat and dirt and that faint oily sheen she still didn't understand. She swayed, caught herself, locked her knees and refused to fall. Not yet, not until they answered her. Is that enough? Her voice came out raw, barely above a whisper, but it carried across the silent arena. Tian stood slowly. The movement was deliberate, theatrical almost. She studied Mara for a long, terrible moment that stretched out like pulled taffy. Then she nodded. Once, sharp and final. Adequate, she said. And though the word was cold, there was something new in her eyes. Not quite respect, but recognition. You have proven yourself adequate. She turned to Master Feng, who was still staring at Mara with undisguised fascination. See that she receives medical attention and appropriate clothing. Wait. The word came from Master Liu. Everyone turned. He stood at the arena's edge, having descended from his position without anyone noticing. His expression was, as always, unreadable, but his eyes. He looked at Mara, really looked at her, and gave the smallest nod. Not approval, exactly. Something else. Acknowledgement. Recognition of something seen and understood. Then he turned to Tian. The girl has passed your test, grandmother. I trust this settles the matter of her suitability. It wasn't a question, and the way he said grandmother formal, but with just enough edge made it clear that despite clan politics and hierarchy, the UI still commanded a certain respect. Even here, even after everything, Tian's eyes narrowed slightly. It settles the matter of her potential, Master Liu. Whether that potential is realized, she looked at Mara again. Time will tell. Mara's knees finally gave out. Yana was there instantly. She must have jumped into the arena the second it was overcashing her, lowering her gently to the packed dirt. I've got you. I've got you. You did it. Oh God, Ma, you actually did it. Did I win? Mara mumbled, her vision starting to tunnel. Yes, you did it. You won. Yana's voice cracked, and Mara felt something red hit her shoulder. Tears. You beautiful, stubborn, terrifying idiot. You won. Good. Mara tried to smile, but her face wasn't cooperating. That's good. Stay with me, Liana said urgently. Mara, stay with me. I'm trying. Mara slurred, just tired. She felt hands on her master vein, probably checking her injuries. Heard voices talking over her head, discussing medical care and blood loss and transformation stress. Heard Liana arguing with someone, her voice fierce and protective, but mostly she was aware of Master Liu, still standing there, still watching her with those ancient, knowing eyes. He nodded once more, just once. Asterisk adequate asterisk, that nod said. Asterisk you've taken your first real step, don't waste it. Asterisk. And then darkness rushed up to claim her, and Mara let it come. She earned a rest. When she woke hours later, or maybe days, she couldn't tell. The first thing she saw was Liana's face. Her ex-girlfriend turned something else was asleep in a chair beside the bed, a pillow on her arms, silver hair spilling across the blankets. The second thing Mara saw was Master Liu standing by the window, hands clasped behind his back, looking out at the city below. He turned when he sensed her stirring. You did well. Mara's throat was too dry to speak. She tried anyway. Did I really win? You survived. You adapted. You proved you could fight without losing yourself entirely. Lee's expression softened barely, but enough. Yes, you won. What happens now? Now, Liu looked at Liana, still sleeping, exhausted from worry, then back at Mara. Now you heal, and then you continue training. He paused. The Dragon Clan has accepted you. Barely. But acceptance is not the same as belonging. That you will have to earn. How? Master Liu was quiet for a long moment, studying her with those ancient eyes. I walk in your path, wherever it leads. He moved toward the door, then paused. You took your first real step today. Do not waste it. And then he was gone, slipping out of the room as silently as he'd stood there. Mara looked at Liana, still sleeping, and reached out to touch her hair. She'd done it. Against all odds, against every expectation. She'd proven herself. It wasn't over, might never been over, but for now, it was enough. She closed her eyes and let herself drift back to sleep, Liana's hand finding hers even in dreams, their fingers lacing together. Together, they'd face whatever came next together. That was enough.